Go get a black goat and make it kill your dad. It'll be the best goat that you ever had. Maybe those twins will be super stupid, and then you can have them die at the end. That was got kind of dark. I don't know what happened.
Didn't quite rhyme, but that's okay.
Welcome back, Fright Night friends, to the season penultimate episode of Scary Movie Fright
I
Night.
can't believe we made it this far.
I cannot believe we made it either. I can't believe Sam is still watching scary movies. But yeah, episode 12. Today we're going to talk about yet another A24 movie, The Witch.
This is
Scary Movie Fright Night, a new podcast about two guys who just watch scary movies. I'm Chris, and I love scary movies.
And I'm Sam, and I hate scary movies. My body just shook. Give me the heebie-jeebies. No, don't. All you have to do is stay inside in your bed, and then you won't get murdered.
Oh.
Okay. Now you have that recorded.
So here we go. This theme for today's episode was witches, as if you didn't get it from the movie title, The Witch. What a coincidence. Which came out in 2015, starring Anya Taylor-Joy as the famed Thomasin, Ralph Ineson as the father, William, and Kate Dickie as the mother, Catherine. Not even going to credit the twins because they were evil and honestly just kind of a pain in the ass. So
They were a pain in the ass, weren't they?
yeah. Rude, but true. But without further ado, for those of you that didn't, watch the movie, maybe you didn't get a chance to recap it. Sam, why don't you give us a quick recap on what this movie was about?
I can do that. So, and my favorite part of just before the recap was that when they lit when the Virgin lit the black flame candle, and then the three witches came back, and then they started wreaking havoc upon the town, and they screamed for their book, and they were flying around, and then there was a zombie.
Sam,
Yeah.
Sam, what movie did you watch?
Wasn't that The Witch? Isn't that the one that we were supposed to watch?
Okay, so pop quiz. Did it have Bette Midler in it? Because if so,
Yes.
Yeah, wrong movie. You watched Hocus Pocus.
Oh, jeez.
It took me a little bit too long to get the reference. I was like, Black Flame Candle. I've heard that somewhere before. I know, but no, legitimately at first I was like,
I missed that
I don't
part.
remember a virgin lighting a candle. They were all around the fire at the end.
This was like,
what did I miss?
Puritan North America, Puritan New England. They were all virgins.
Yep, they were all Puritan.
Yeah. Okay, no, I'm totally kidding. I didn't watch Hocus Pocus. I did watch The Witch, and I do have the real plot synopsis for you. Okay, but I'm not going to do it in super record time. I'm just going to work my way through it, but try and still bring you along for the ride. So here's what happened in The Witch, aka The Witch. So it's 1630s New England. They have an English settler, William, and his family, and they're banished from their Puritan settlement over a religious dispute. And while their daughter, Thomasin, is playing peekaboo with the baby, their baby, Samuel, suddenly just vanishes. And turns out he's stolen by a witch. We see her, who she has presumably killed the baby, smashed up his body, and then used it to make an ointment that she rubs all over her body so that she can fly. Whatever you got to do to stay young. So the mom's a little upset, naturally. She just lost her baby. She just spends all day crying and praying. The father and the son go hunting in the woods. They're very concerned about the baby being unbaptized, the fact that he probably is now in hell because he died before he got baptized. There's a little bit of drama around the mom's silver cup, which the dad traded for traps so they could hunt for. Yeah, it's expensive. Family heirlooms, just giving them away. But, family's got to eat. So anyway, we then were introduced to the twins, which you already mentioned, and they're kind of giving Shining vibes, not because they're creepy, they're just really annoying. And they talk about how they're playing with the family's goat named Black Phillip, who they say talks to them. So warning sign number one. So the older daughter Thomasin and the son Caleb they sneak out into the forest to go check the traps, And while they're in the forest, the dog, their family dog, sees a rabbit and chases after the rabbit. And then they lose him. They have to go run through the woods to find him. The son, Caleb, finds the dog. He's been like disemboweled. You're like, oh no, not the family dog. And then
Mhm.
Caleb gets Thomason falls off her horse. She gets knocked out, right? So she's lost the brother. The brother finds the witch's den out in the woods, her little house, and she like sticks her leg out of the door and comes out of the house, and then she kind of like seduces him. She's like young and beautiful, and she has her big boobies sticking out, and she seduces him, and he like comes up. He's like 7 or something. He's very young. Anyway, she like
Mm.
kisses him, and you see her like
Yeah.
gross witch fingers like wrap around his head. Anyway, so of course they're worried because they lost the first baby and now the son is lost in the woods somewhere. So the next day he shows up, he's back at the house, but he's like naked in the rain, concerning. And then they bring him in the house and he ends up
I
having
mean, he was just trying to be refreshed. Sorry, go
he
ahead.
was. He was trying to get all the witch filth off of him, but it doesn't
Mhm.
work because he ends up having like seizures and convulsions. He's like possessed kind of, and he ends up saying all these really creepy things and then he just dies. So the family's freaking out at this point because I mean this is 2 kids down. They've only got 3 to go and they've decided now that the oldest daughter, Thomason, is the witch. They think she's the one who's practicing witchcraft. She points the finger back at her siblings, the twins, and she's like, no, 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 they're out there playing with that freaky fucking goat, having conversations with him. So maybe we should talk about maybe they're doing the witchcraft.
Mm.
So the dad's just like, fuck all of this. He locks all of them in the little goat pen house, like literally boards that shit up with them inside of it with the goat or a goat. They wake up in the middle of the night and the witch is in there drinking the blood of the goat. So that's freaky. The mom, meanwhile, inside the house has a hallucination of her 2 children who have already been killed. And
Mhm.
in her dream, she's holding the baby and the baby is breastfeeding. And in real life, there's a raven like pecking at her breasts. Like, so she's like, it's like eating her it's like bleeding everywhere. It's really gross. Anyway, so the next morning, the dad gets up and goes out to the goat stable to check on the kids that he locked in there, and the thing's kind of been destroyed. Like the wood's been blown off. There's like dead animals everywhere. The twins are gone. The older daughter wakes up and she's like, What is happening?" And then out of nowhere, the goat just stabs the dad with his horn, and the dad well, he kind of died. Well, he gets fucked up by the goat, but then he falls into the log pile, and the log pile kind of falls on
Yeah.
his head, and then I think that's when he died. Whatever, dad's
Yeah.
dead.
The pile he's been building the whole movie falls on him, and
Yes, comes crumbling down. He's been chopping wood the whole movie, and that's what did him in the end. Anyway, we're almost there. So the daughter is just watched her dad get gored by the goat and then killed by his wood pile. The mom comes out and she's like, "You're a fucking witch," and the daughter's like, "No, you're crazy." And so the mom tries to strangle the daughter, and the daughter slices her with a farm tool or something that was laying on the ground. So now the mom is dead. The daughter, Thomason, is the only character left. She goes in and she goes to talk to Black Phillip the goat. And she's
Mhm.
like, "You goat, you've been talking to my twin siblings," which we don't even know where they are now. "Why, talk to me the way you talk to them." And right when we think the goat's not going to say anything, she like, Thomason turns away. Like she's like over it. She's like, "I'm going to go back to finding something else to do." And the goat's like, starts whispering to her. He's like, "Hey, Thomason, wouldst thou live deliciously?" So he starts whispering to her, and you're like, "Oh shit, this goat is actually Satan." So then he tells her to take off her clothes, and she does. And then he tells her to sign her name in a book. And she's like, "No." And he's like, "It's okay. I'll just guide your hand." And then she wanders off naked into the woods where she finds a coven of witches, does their little ritual with them, and they all float up into the air. And that's the end of the movie.
Hmm. Good retelling.
Thank
Good
you.
retelling.
Thank
Well done.
you.
Yep. The couple questions I had just to clarify for the audience. Which witch would a witch come? Which if a witch could, which could witch? Also,
No, you've been holding that in for the
Also,
whole synopsis.
yes, yeah, yeah, which because you said something and when you're like, oh, you're a witch, no, they're a witch, and I was like, which
Who's the
witch? I want a
witch?
sandwich.
Yeah.
Um, also, uh, was it like his Satan guest book? Like, hey, welcome to my Satan lodge. Please
Yes,
sign the Satan
everybody
guest
signed
book.
the guest book. You and I
Yeah,
went to dinner the other night, and the restaurant, this cute little restaurant, had a guest book
they had a Satan guest
that,
book. Yeah,
well, I don't know that it was a Satan guest book, but it was.
was it not? Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
I didn't
felt
eat
pretty evil to
any.
me.
I didn't eat any babies while we were there that I know of. Maybe some
No, no,
fish
no, no.
babies.
The babies are moisturizer. Goat intestines
Right.
are the food.
The
Get it
milk,
straight,
the
Sam.
bloody milk of the goats is what the witch
The
was drinking.
bloody that's gross. But yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So
Anyway,
well done. Thanks for the recap. I
you're welcome.
now I remember what the movie's about.
I didn't
Because I didn't
practice
watch
in
it.
case that wasn't obvious.
No, no, no. It felt very rehearsed.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah. Um but yeah, so that was the witch. Which was sorry, I'm
That's
starting
gonna happen
early.
the entire movie.
It's gonna happen the entire episode about the
Do you
movie.
remember when we got hung up
Uh
on it and we couldn't stop talking about it?
yeah. Yeah, which movie was that?
It, the,
Which one?
it,
Which?
it.
Okay. So I have thoughts. I enjoyed the movie overall, but what are your thoughts? What Big Sam? We're coming off a high, we're coming off a 10 out of 10. We're coming off of Jump Scares Are Us, available at jumpscares.com for $9.99. Guaranteed to deliver at Amazon Prime. But what did you think about the movie?
This was different from anything that I think that we've seen so far, which
Mhm.
was kind of cool. It made, I was like, this seems like something that I would watch in a college history class if we had to watch a scary
Okay.
movie in a history class. It felt like
Yeah.
if we wanted to learn what people in that time period thought that witches were like, this is what
Right.
this is the tale that they were telling back in the day.
I think I agree. It's interesting. Did you catch that at the end of the movie, at like just past the credits or just when it went dark or something? It made a comment about how something about how the stories were pulled from real
Oh,
stories and
yes.
real diaries or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so I find that super interesting. So effectively, like, everything that kind of was told here comes from real lore. Um, from that era,
Yeah.
which is super interesting. And I didn't really think about it like that, but that's a good point. What you said is it is really like watching a historical lesson on what could have been, of witches of that
Like
time.
it felt like a lot of cliches, but that's not a criticism. It's not a bad thing. It just seems like what people 300 years ago would have thought witches were like the baby cream so that you can fly,
Yeah,
um the classic witch face with like the big nose and just the ugly, old
yeah,
body and all that. And
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. It just felt like a lot of classic witch tropes.
yeah, yeah. I didn't, talking about scary, right? I didn't really find it to be super horror-y. It had kind of the slow
Mm,
discomfort. I found myself caught up in the story and the tension,
mm,
of like the mother blaming Thomason for the baby, but also for the cup. But then the father took the cup and he didn't admit it. So there's this tension between the family. The lighting's dark. I'm going to talk more about the score, but in true A24
oh,
fashion, the score was a huge part of it. The strings, the deep string instruments playing, and just like the building that tension. So you have this dark background, this dark theme, this tension, the tension in the family, and then on top of all that, you have this entity out in the woods that's luring them in. So it's just we're gonna get a little bit more into my thoughts on how it relates between the other A24 movies, but I want to say that the constant tension feels kind of high lifey in the sense of
yes,
just like slow, steady tension that just doesn't go away.
yeah, yeah,
Nothing crazy, but
yeah.
but but yeah,
I agree. I agree. The music, I agree. I had forgotten about the music. A lot of it felt it was so. There was times where it almost reminded me of when we talked about The Shining. That there
mhm,
was like dissonance in The Shining that was like that created like an almost visceral reaction to what you were watching. And so that
Yeah.
tension is very true. I definitely felt that. And I was almost wondering, like, I like to think about when we're watching the movie and you're trying to figure out who the villain is and what they want and what their end
Right.
game is and why they're doing what they're doing. And oftentimes the answer is there
Yeah.
is no why. They just whatever. They're just evil. And in this
Yeah.
case, what I was wondering throughout the movie is I was like, this tension that was happening with the family, I was wondering, like, was the witch creating this tension intentionally? Wow, intentional tension, or
What?
was her goal to like get another witch to join the coven, which ends up happening in the end? Was her goal just to see everybody die? Like,
Yeah. What was the goal of the witches? Right.
I don't know if there was a goal necessarily.
Yeah.
Those were just the questions that was running through my mind because it seemed very centered on the family. We hardly see the
Right.
witch. We don't see a ton of there's a couple key moments where death or destruction happen, but really it
Hmm.
seems like most, like you said, like the tension sort of is revolved around the dissonance in the family and the disagreement, the fear they
Yeah.
start to have of each other. And
Yep.
there's the whole thing with like, they would like pan down to Thomason's like boobs. Like she's
Yeah.
clearly coming into her adulthood, and that comes with
Right.
like newfound sexuality and everything. And that in Puritan
Yeah.
culture, I'm sure was like a thing to be afraid of. It's like, oh, she's the witch, like that whole tension. And they were talking about sending her off to be with another family because she's now
Right.
becoming a woman. So that's what happens. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
the tension in the family was something building throughout the whole thing that was, adding to
Yeah.
the,
It's almost like like the witch was just an added extra.
yeah,
Because the movie could have been any tension, right? It could have been anything. Now, obviously, there had to be something to pick off the family, but it could have been like a wolf, or it could have been,
right.
Bigfoot, or their dog
Freddy
with
Krueger.
rabies. Yeah,
Yeah.
Freddy could have been Freddy Krueger coming after them in their dreams.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is kind of interesting the way that they really did focus on that tension in the family, and I hadn't really thought about what was, and we'll never know, right? But like, what were the witches going for? It seemed like that Thomason seemed to be like the perfect candidate coming into her womanhood to be like lured into this. And so, if they were going to take anyone into the coven, that was going to be her, right?
Did you think were they trying to get the mother as well? Were they trying to persuade her? I was a little bit unclear.
I don't think so. I think they were trying to drive her crazy.
Okay, well, they did success.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple questions,
Yeah.
and these are questions that are really like unanswered to me, right? So I was just like things that I left with. Not the amount of questions we left High Life with, but like one, why were they banished? And
Mm.
part of me was like, maybe it was lost in the heavy language that I sometimes was like, I don't know what they're talking about, especially in the first couple scenes. But did you ever pick out why they were actually banished? I don't think it's an
I
important
didn't.
part. It just gets them out in the open,
Yeah, well,
and I think that's the
I
purpose.
think you're right. I think it's not necessarily an important part, but I did have the same question. I was like, how did
Yeah,
we get here? And they chose to start the movie with that for some reason. They didn't just start with them
yeah,
out on their farm. They were starting with the point that they were being pushed out
yeah.
of their community.
Well, and I think it gave it like a hopeless feel, like they didn't have anywhere to go, right? So
Yes.
when things start to happen, they can't just go to the nearest town because
Right.
they've been banished. So I think that it
Right.
added that factor in.
Yeah. We heard them talk about
Um,
that a little bit. The dad was like, "Oh, I'll take them back. We'll go see a doctor after the kid got sick or cursed or whatever."
yeah,
And the mom was like, "Are you? How? Like what?" Or maybe she was saying to do that. And the dad was like, "No, it's too far." And how are we? Yeah, I don't remember. But basically, there was nowhere to go. There was no one else to
yeah.
ask.
It made them alone.
Yeah.
My next question is, what happened to the twins? They just kind of vanished. Did they die? Did they not?
They went to stay at a hotel, the Stanley
Oh,
Hotel.
Hotel California. No, it was Hotel California because once they went there, they could never leave. Yeah,
Well, they also
yeah. They
never
went there on the
left
Oregon
the,
Trail.
yeah, they joined the Oregon Trail and made it all the way out
Yeah,
to California.
exactly.
Well,
So
what
happily ever after for them.
what do we really think happened to them? So there was no signs, there was 0 clues or anything. They're just gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were locked in there with Thomason.
Yeah.
And then the witch was in there with them, which I think was probably the witch that was the jackrabbit. Which I have other questions like.
Yes.
So the jackrabbit was a witch. The goat was Satan. There was a whole slew of witches out there,
Yep.
though. When Thomason joined at the end, were multiple witches at play. maybe the jackrabbit was the witch assigned to that family, and the other ones were assigned to other things. So the jackrabbit witch was eating the goats, but then everything was busted out, and Thomason survived. I can't imagine the twins survived that, but I guess we'll never know.
Well, let's think about this. So they were talking to Black Phillip, the goat.
True.
He was talking to them.
Yep.
So, but I wonder for what purpose? Like, one, I'm
Mm,
assuming that only women can become witches. So even if they were trying to get the little girl to join the coven, the
yeah.
little boy couldn't do that, presumably.
Right.
So we'll rule that out. So, I mean, yeah, did
Yeah.
they use the twins to make more flying lotion? Or, I mean, I
Maybe.
don't know. Yeah.
Well, and I think that and I don't know if this correlates, but ghost stories, right? Kids are always more receptive, so I think like Black Phillip being able to talk to the kids and kind of get in their ear and persuade them and maneuver them to kind of be, just more chaos to provide added chaos to the
Oh,
situation,
that makes
um,
sense. Maybe there was no
to help
goal.
bring
It
down the
was just,
house.
yeah,
Yeah,
bring down the house, just general chaos.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
general chaos.
general chaos. Chaos witches. Wait, you mentioned the jackrabbit. That was one of my trivia facts that I wanted to share with you.
Oh, well, perfect transition.
Yeah,
Well done.
well done. So, the trivia facts calls it a hare instead of a jackrabbit. Whatever, hare, rabbit, same
Mm,
thing. So we
I
see
don't have any hair
this. We see. Yeah. Well, you don't have a jackrabbit either. Uh,
that you know of.
so we see this rabbit periodically, like in the woods and then on the farm.
Hmm.
And I mean, he looks
Right.
really sweet. He just has the sweet little nose that does the little
Mm,
wiggly thing.
looks like sweet evil.
Sweet evil,
Sweet
sweet
evil.
evil. Well, they
Mm.
really figured out how to make it in the movie, how to make the rabbit look creepy. I don't know if it was the music or I don't know what they did, but every time that we saw the
Yeah, probably
rabbit,
the music. It was probably the music, honestly, and the dark,
yeah, yeah, we
tone
should go back and look.
colors.
Yeah, but anyway, in colonial New England, hares were considered magical creatures. They were often
Hmm.
associated with witches, either as a milk hare which stole or spoiled milk from the farm animals,
Oh,
or
interesting.
the witch themselves, who were thought to
Okay,
be able to turn themselves into a hare in order to spy on and influence people.
so that again, that ties back to them, it really being kind of a history lesson of
Yes.
the witches.
Yes. And that's interesting too.
Interesting.
That's to spy on and influence people in that I was trying to think through like, well, what was the deal? What were they trying to get out of the mom? What were they trying to get out of the twins? Maybe they weren't trying to get anything. They were just causing chaos. They just wanted to
Yep.
influence. And that's an interesting take to think about like modern horror versus what people who lived in the what did we say 1630s or whatever like
Yeah, something like that.
sometimes what they I like what I guess what they're thinking of is like so terrifying is just being influenced by the
Yep.
devil or his
Right. Which, when
influencers.
you think about it, right, like when you talk about like devil and Satan influence evil, right? Like sometimes it just doesn't need to have a logical, like, what were they trying to get at, right?
Right.
It's literally ensuing chaos to bring down the destruction of human beings or the family or whatever, because it's evil. Because it's evil, because it's chaotic, because that's what they do with no rhyme or reason. Crazy. It's like, it's like psychopathic people that go in and, kill people. Like, I mean, there are psychopaths in the real world that do things that we will never understand what was going on in their brain or how that led them to believe that this was a thing, right? So you take that and you put it in the hands of Satan or whatever. Um, and so you and me are trying to rationalize it and say, well, what were they trying to get at?
Yeah,
Like, what was
yeah.
their end goal? But I don't think they were having, they probably weren't doing scrum meetings to figure out what their goals were and how to accomplish them to meet their
Right, right.
their long term
So,
goals.
witches meeting number 1. What are our objectives for the week?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly what they probably needed but didn't have back then.
Well, yeah. Maybe I'll see
Yeah,
if there's a little market for that. So for our listeners, I do project management, scrum mastery, team coaching, that kind of stuff professionally during my day job. And maybe I'll go see if there's some witches out there who need some coaching and advice on how to set goals, problem solve, and communicate.
yeah, and then you can have a sign that says like, "Which Scrum Master is for you?" and then with an arrow pointing to yourself.
And I'll put on some horns.
Do you have more trivia?
Oh yeah, I do have some more trivia. Um okay, so this one I figured out on my own, but then I also read it on the internet and I was like, ugh, well, I already
Mm.
figured it out. So there.
I did the same thing with what I'm gonna bring later. Don't worry.
Oh, well, it's nice because
Yeah.
then you feel smart because you're like, I knew this. The internet just validated it for me.
Right.
But I
Right.
was
Right.
looking at the list of the cast members
Hmm.
because I really like Anya Taylor Joy. This was her first major film, so I guess this was like her
That
big.
makes sense
Yeah,
because I've seen her in a million things, but I didn't remember she was in this movie.
yeah.
Like, because when this movie came out, like, I don't think anyone really knew who she was, but since then, obviously she's become a lot more famous.
Yes, yes. This is her beginning. So I was looking at the list of the cast members, and the lady. You'll probably make the connection as soon as I say this.
Yep.
The actress who plays the witch. Her name
Oh, hmm.
is. Wait, I want to get her full name. Wait for it.
She's like the one person that I didn't actually like pay much attention to who the actress was.
Her name is Bathsheba Garnett.
Hmm. Good name.
Can you make the connection, or do I need to spell it out?
Make the connection to what?
Aha! I shall do it. So her name is Bathsheba Garnett. And last episode, we discussed The Conjuring and the name of
Yeah.
the witch, the character, the witch
Oh.
in The Conjuring.
Oh, it was something.
It was Bathsheba.
Oh, that's wait. So the actress's name is Bathsheba?
Yes, yes. The actress's name is
Okay. Well,
Bathsheba.
that's
She plays a
that's weird.
witch, and in The Conjuring, the name of the witch in the movie was Bathsheba.
Bathsheba. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say the mom was breastfeeding the Raven, and she also, that actress, played the woman in Game of Thrones who
Yes.
breastfed her grown child,
Well,
but he was not a crow or a raven.
and he was
So
a grown child just breastfeeding
he was a
away.
grown.
Yeah, no, I did.
Yeah,
I didn't. I don't know if I thought about that connection necessarily, but I did recognize her from
right.
her role in Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause she was a little bit crazy on Game of Thrones, so she's pretty recognizable.
Yeah.
And she, it's not to say that she was crazy, but she was driven a little crazy because her baby was stolen at the
She was
beginning of the movie.
paranoid. She was very paranoid in Game of Thrones, and she was very paranoid in this movie.
Yeah,
Paranoia.
yeah. Well, I have so for listeners out there that don't know, I don't know why you would know. I for our listeners out there, Sam and I and my wife and his partner Zach, we have been playing Diablo 4 because it recently released. When we were recording this episode, it's pretty new. The father actually voiced one of the characters in Diablo
Oh
4.
no way.
Yeah, I don't know which one, but one of them. He
Oh
has that kind of a voice, though. I feel like
yeah.
he's done a lot of voice work.
Yeah. 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 Well, and
So I just found that was interesting.
speaking of, and there's like bajillions of characters in that game, so I feel like it'd be tricky to. Well, maybe it's one of the main characters. Whatever, we'll figure that out. But
I don't really know. Yeah.
speaking of voice work, the language of this movie is really cool, fascinating. I mean, they must have
Okay.
that. You're like, okay.
I'm like, okay,
I
sure.
don't know.
I mean, if I can understand what they were saying, then I would probably find it
Yes,
fascinating. No, it was well done.
there was moments where I
Subtitles would have
was.
been helpful.
Yes, I agree. A few subtitles, maybe, or translations or something. There were some scenes, especially between the father and the son in the woods. I was like, "What are you guys talking about?"
Hmm.
So, and if you didn't watch the movie, they used the language and the pronunciation of the era. It was true to its historical. Just like you said, the script was written. A lot of it was based on journals and diary and court diaries and court documents and everything. Same is true for the way that they spoke, which
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty cool, even if I couldn't understand all of
yeah,
it. The whole time I was thinking about the fact that that cast includes British people, Americans, maybe some others from other different places, but they all had to figure out how to use the same dialect from the time period, and I thought that was
yeah.
masterful.
It was, yeah, it was pretty well done. I appreciated it. It gave it realism,
Yeah,
made it feel real.
yeah, yeah.
Because they could have just talked to normal accents and we could have understood them, but it made it feel realer.
Yes, that added. I felt like
I
we
have a
were.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Noting your sensitivity for children throughout all the movies. So in the opening scene, not opening, but like in the opening, about 8 minutes in, baby gets mashed up and rubbed into like chunked up and rubbed all over the woman's body. I was like, I'm not gonna lie, like I felt that scene in my stomach. I was like, oh, this is fucked. Like, and then I immediately was like, the kids aren't safe. I wonder what Sam thought of, like, at this point in the movie. Like, how did you feel? Or is it because the baby was too tiny? If it was like a young person, then maybe
It's
like a 2 or
fine
3 or 4
if
year
it's
old.
under
Oh,
6
so
months.
babies are
No, I'm
okay.
just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Once they become, 3 or 4, then they're off limits. Is that
No,
Sam's rule?
when we see the knife, I was like, "Oh fuck,
Yeah.
what is she about to do?" And it just gets like closer and closer to the baby's body, and I was like, having to do that thing where I was like, "I don't know if I can watch. I might have to look away."
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, they don't show her chopping up a baby,
Right, right.
but that was like giving me the like the ick, you know.
Y
Um,
Same.
for the rest of the kids, I don't know. I don't think I had that
Yeah.
same level of like, "Oh no," and I maybe it's because
None of them were endearing.
well, I thought the older siblings were cool.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah. No, they were good.
twins,
Yeah, they were fine.
you can let them
The
get
twins are just
kidnapped.
kinda nuisances and also maybe ensorcelled. So,
Yeah, I think they had been
and
ensorcelled.
we don't really see what happens to them. So at that point, but again, I think we're just tied into the tension of the family, and like we're not feeling the foreboding fear of something is coming to get them. We only really felt that, I think, when something was actually getting the baby at the beginning.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, here's my take on the scariness and the pace of the movie. So
mhm.
about 3 quarters of the way through it, I was like almost bored. Almost bored.
Okay,
Not
okay,
I was like
that's
starting
fair.
to think like, is anything gonna happen? Is anybody gonna I mean, I know we lost the baby in the beginning, and the
Right,
first kid kisses the
but it
witch,
didn't. It wasn't. Yeah, yeah.
but
I no, I could see that.
I was like almost on the verge of being like, is this gonna like fall flat? Like
Hmm.
we know because we talked about this that The Shining for me just didn't hit the mark. It was
Right,
so slow, and at the
right.
end,
Well,
like
you have
one
a
character.
small attention span.
I have a very small attention span. I gotta switch like every 30 seconds.
Yeah,
At the end of The Shining, there was the like one character got killed, I think,
yeah,
right? So
yeah, yeah,
and he was hardly even on screen. So the people that you've been watching the
yeah.
entire movie, not that I wanted them to die. I'm just saying I think The Shining just sort of fell flat for me, the movie.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
this one I was afraid that that's what was going to happen, and then it like took a turn at the end. Like
Yeah. Yeah. It picked up
when
at the end.
I guess it was, now I'm trying to think about it. When he locked the kids into the little goat pen, I was
Mhm.
like, "Ooh, this seems like really not good." And something like I started to get a little more anxious about what was coming because I was like, are the
Right.
parents going to go crazy and like kill the kids, or like are they going to
Right.
leave
Like,
them in there to die? Are they going to attack each other? Like what's going to happen? And then we
yeah.
see the witch in there drinking the blood. And I was like, "Oh shit." And then everything after that, the next morning, was like boom, boom, boom. Like twins are gone, animals are ripped apart. Dad gets
Yeah.
gored
And
through
the
the
whole rest.
stomach.
Yeah.
Mom slashed in the face. I was like, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit."
Yeah.
And it did not fall flat. Didn't fall flat.
So it's interesting that you talk about The Shining falling flat for you, because I think that now, how much of this is tied in the people making lists that I'm about to mention are people that have been watching stuff their whole life like me, but it still shows up on lists, like, because I'm always looking at like online lists of like the best horror movies of all time, this and that, because I'm always poaching for future themes and ideas for the show. And The Shining still shows up on a lot of lists for like all time classic horror. And I think when I watched it, I don't think it fell flat. Did it like have me on the edge of my seat? No. But can I put myself, and this kind of ties into like putting myself in it, right? Investing myself in it and feeling like, oh, I'm in this giant house. And it's not like I'm imagining this, right? But I'm in this giant house out in the cold, out in the thing. She's like tying into the emotions of the characters, which maybe 400 seasons from now, you'll have become someone that can envelop yourself into the movie. But it's just interesting, but this movie definitely had that same, like I said, I was invested in the family. I'm watching the thing like I'm watching kind of like a documentary, to be
Yes,
honest,
that's
right?
the exact. You took the words right out of my
Yep.
brain. It was like I was almost like
N-
watching a documentary on the History Channel.
yeah, not disinteresting.
Yeah,
Horror movie like doesn't give me the horror
yeah,
feels, right?
yeah,
But not disinteresting. Yeah.
yeah.
Educational, sure.
Maybe a little bit. So one of the connections actually that I wanted to make between The Shining and The Witch is we talked in the Shining episode about how Stephen King did not like the movie. The Shining, of
Right.
course, being based on his book. I'm assuming he liked his book, but he didn't like the movie adaptation of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he did like this movie, The Witch. He
Oh,
tweeted, let me read his tweet. He said, "The Witch scared the hell out of me, and it's a real movie, tense and thought provoking as well as visceral."
interesting.
So,
And I think it's that like deeper thought feeling of like putting yourself in it and like chewing on the feelings and emotions and thoughts of the characters.
yeah,
I think for him to get that scared, I feel like that's probably what he's doing is he's like in it.
yeah.
He's like the movie The Witch is a hollowed out bear and he's in that bear being burned alive. Anyway,
Oh,
sorry.
nice
Sorry.
connection.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Well,
More to follow. But
I have a question because I pulled that quote from Wikipedia. Well, it's from Stephen King's Twitter
okay.
account, but the Wikipedia article on this movie mentioned another author who I don't know, and I'm curious if you know who this is because I thought
Okay.
that his quote about the movie was kind of funny. Do you know who Brian Keene is?
No.
Okay.
Brian Keene. Hmm.
I just Googled him. He's written a bunch of books: Rising, The Conqueror Worms, Dark Hollow, City of the Dead, Urban Gothic, Dead Sea, Ghoul, and probably many others. Ghost Walk, Castaways, The Last Zombie, Darkness on the Edge of Town. Anyway, he's a horror writer.
Right, yeah. I mean, sounds like some cool stuff. I don't know why I've never heard of him. Seems kind of weird, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
this is what he had to say about this movie, and I think this is funny. He said, "The
Okay.
Witch is a gorgeous, thoughtful, scary horror film that 90% of the people in the theater with you will be too stupid to understand."
Oh, well, now we know why you didn't get it.
Well, I read
Ooh,
that
just
quote and I
kidding.
was like, wait, am I in the 90% or the 10%? I don't know. Do I understand it? I don't.
Uh, you understand it. Yeah, you
You think
understand it.
so? Okay. All right.
But that's interesting. I feel like that's a little harsh. I don't know if understand or grasp or there's probably anyway. I'm really curious about who this person is. I'm pretty sure this person isn't real,
What if we're
but
both in the
anyway, it's fine.
90%? Then how do we really know?
Well, because everyone else is in the 10. That doesn't actually how math works. You and I are the only people in the 90%. The rest of the world's the 10. Hashtag math.
Uh,
That's why we're doing a podcast because we're not mathematicians.
the only other little piece of trivia that I wanted to share because I was really dying to
Yeah.
know why the movie was spelled with two V's, like on the
Oh,
movie
yeah. That's actually a
poster
good
and
question
everything. Yeah.
because they were like the two horns of the goat.
Oh.
I just made that up, but it's possible.
Well, it's not the reason that I read, but that's a cool connection. I
Okay.
do like that.
Thanks. You just said that's not actually true, but nice try.
You were part of the 90% who doesn't get it. No, the reason is because that in that day and age, there was
Hmm.
no W. The letter W was
Oh,
not in common use. They just used two V's,
that makes sense.
which
So
still is a
again, it's
mystery
just
why we call it a W instead of a double V. But
well, isn't it in another language? It's W. W is how you pronounce it in
French,
French. Is it French?
yeah.
Probably. Yeah. See,
So they
sounds
figured it
like
out.
double
They
V to
got it
me.
right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why I keep calling it the Vitch. And I really like calling
Oh,
it
is that's
that.
why? Hmm.
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
It's a German Vitch. So that's all my fun facts. Not a ton this time. I didn't have a lot of like really meaty research.
Hmm.
But I enjoyed the craftsmanship of this film and I did get scared. There was moments where I jumped and the concept was to me generally quite scary.
Quite scary. So I'm about to blow your mind.
Oh my god. Okay.
I don't know if I'm really gonna blow your mind, but I thought it was funny because you'd said that this movie gave you Midsommar vibes from like, like what you'd seen, the imagery and stuff that you'd seen.
Yeah.
And so right off the bat, watching it, I made some very interesting parallels to Midsommar. And then I found an article that actually talks a little bit about it. Of course, they weren't directed by the same person, right? But they're both A24. So it's not like super crystal clear, but I'm just going to kind of go through the things that I noticed. So first of all, 8 minutes in, the witch cuts up the baby and she's rubbing, blood and stuff all over her body. And so I'm just like, I know, I pay attention to the time as it goes through. So I'm like 8 minutes in, I'm like, oh God, 8 minutes in, super gruesome opening, which immediately reminded me of Midsommar. And then first
Yes.
10 minutes, which is super gruesome suicide scene,
Yes.
and her whole family's dead, right? That sets the tone for Danny's despair throughout the whole rest of the movie. The death
Right.
of Samuel sets the tone for all the conflict that happens with that family for the rest of the movie, right? So that's the
Right.
forcing function for the movie, both within the first 10 minutes, right? The so the first 10 minutes of Midsommar, when it cuts to the scene where it shows the car and it goes to the house, and it's those strong string instruments that sound like wailing, and that music and the use of the score, notably in that first 10 minutes, was
Yeah.
like the entire movie of The Witch. It was all
Yes.
just those strings and the darkness. The dark feel of the first 10 minutes of Midsommar was like the dark feel of the entire movie of The Witch. I drew those
Yes.
every time I heard the strings playing, it took me back to that opening scene of Midsommar.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, it
so
it kind of made me think that like what we were hearing could have been music. I mean, okay, but that's not a good. Not that they would have played the music in that way because it was dissonant and harsh and horror
right.
movie, but it was on instruments that would have been played in that time.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, for sure. If they had people in the background playing it, that would have been another parallel to Midsommar.
Yeah.
But they were not there. But then when you talk about Thomason versus Danny, right? So Thomason like had complete lack of familiar support. She was basically shut off. She was alone in the sense, whereas Danny had complete lack of her boyfriend slash friend support. She was effectively alone. Um,
Oh
at the
yes.
end, Thomason like rises up as part of the witch coven. Danny is the new flower queen. She rises up
Oh
as part of her new coven. It's not her coven, but her new
yes,
community.
yes. She's like
Um,
embracing this dark side or whatever.
yep.
She's part of what was horror is now she's part of it.
Yeah, yep,
Oh,
and so I identified those, and then I found this article from cinematiccorner.blogspot.com where they talked about visual parallels, The Witch and Midsommar. So, um, just to add to what I already said, that talks about the devil wants Thomason and the cult wants Danny, right? So it's almost like the devil has identified Thomason, and they make everything fall apart around her to bring her in at the end, similar to how what happens in Midsommar. And in the end, both Thomason and Danny effectively kind of snap, right? They kind of like lose their sanity a bit. But in their madness, they finally experience freedom for the first time
oh yes.
throughout the story. They were both trapped. Thomason sells her soul to the devil. Danny, gives herself to the cult. Perhaps in the madness they found along with it is the only way they can experience joy. But yeah, so I just found it interesting how much parallels there were with them being completely separate stories and completely different movies, and one was definitely not ripping the other one off, but they were very connected from the first 10 minutes kind of through the main woman character's evolution into the end, where she's now part of this new community and her whole family is dead and she's all alone, and
Wow.
that's it.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is so crazy and cool. And you're right. It's like once she gets out there, she's naked, she's in the woods, she's surrounded by these witches who are doing this dance in the firelight. And then but you see on her face, if I remember, she has this like expression of joy and release and of
Yeah,
freedom, doesn't
it's
she?
like Danny's final smile. Yeah, she like,
Yes.
yep, yeah,
Oh, that's so good. Wow, it
yeah,
almost
that's
makes me
right.
want to like celebrate the ending. It's like you did it. You survived and you thrived. And you're a witch
Yeah,
now. You're a
well
vitch.
done, well done, Thomason and
Wow.
Danny.
That's interesting
Yeah,
for us as viewers to think about like the movie starting off with this like gut punch and then we
hmm,
have tension, gut discomfort throughout the whole thing and then in the end you have
yep,
this just release, this gut release. It's like
yep.
a fart. It's like you've
Um,
had
that is,
indigestion
yeah.
for a whole movie and then it just releases and you're
No,
like, "Oh, yes."
that's exactly,
Isn't that what you think?
man.
Is that what the
Yeah,
article said?
this movie was just like a good fart. Holy shit! Not where I expected you to go with this one.
Sorry. Well, it
It's
started with the
fine.
gut
No,
punch, and then it just turned into
yeah.
all the other gut stuff. Woo.
Another interesting point, and again, maybe I should analyze this with more fine tooth comb, but like she kills her mom. So the last of her group to die is at her own hand. The last of
Mm,
Danny's group to die is also by her own choice.
yes.
Um,
Well,
I could go all day.
but we should go all day.
One's out of self
It
defense. One
is.
is, yeah,
And
yeah. They're not in the
the other
same
one's
manner.
not pure self-defense, but it kind of, I mean, it's not like I'm
It's kind of
defending
like,
myself, but it's like she has been this guy's been treating her like shit and she's been isolated and alone, and it is a form of like emotional self-defense.
right, right.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go too down the rabbit hole
No
and
more
turn it into a
therapy.
therapy
Yeah.
session
Let
because,
me tell you
uh,
something else about my history. It feels like a fart.
yeah.
No.
It's your history stinks.
Yeah. Wait, so were there other connections? Are there other things that come to
No,
mind?
that was kind of it.
Those are the main
That was the
things?
main. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome.
Fascinating. That's
Yep.
those are some pretty cool parallels.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, and it was pretty cool that I found that article that validated my thoughts. Although I knew they were right, it's fine. I'm super smart and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm the 90% or the 10%. I'm the percent.
What are those
Um,
percentages? Whichever one is the smart one, that's the one that we are.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think I have an idea, but to kind of wrap up this discussion of the Vitch, um, what do you rate it? What's your
Shoot.
scary movie, scary meter,
Okay. Can we
your scare meter
Can we
rating.
talk through this and unpack it a little bit together? Because typically, what I try to
Yeah.
do is I try to prepare, and before we record, I think, and I'm like, okay, pick a number and like commit to it because I've been calibrating this scary scale. But
Right,
now
right.
we've had what's the lowest we've had? A two? I don't
Um,
remember.
hold that thought. I'll literally pull it up one second.
You have it. Okay.
And we, of course, we're actually we'll wrap this up probably in end of season wrap up. We'll kind of go through where we've come and what we've gone through. But what I'll say is, it looks like the lowest you've rated was Megan because you said one or two. I probably at the time should have had you decide which one because that's the only one you didn't give a real number to.
Oh,
But
shame.
Megan, you gave a one or two,
Okay.
because it was just kind of
Okay.
fun and you danced a
Well,
lot.
well.
Train to Busan, you also gave a two. So
Oh, maybe I should try and
yeah,
differentiate between Megan and Train to Busan, but we could do that later. That's a topic for another time.
right, right, right,
So I've
right.
done one ish, two ish, and we've done a 10. And then there's some spread
Yep.
there in between. So I
Hmm.
didn't come prepared this time with a number in mind for this movie, but let's think about it. So
Hmm.
adrenaline. I wasn't like the entire movie in total suspense, but the
Right.
end there was definitely an adrenaline spike. I jumped when he was gored by the goat, and then when he
Yep.
died by the wood pile, I was like, oh. And
Hmm.
then you just see him. You just see him laying there. They make you look at him for
True.
like 30 seconds, and his daughter's just standing there looking at him. And that was
That's
like,
true.
oof, gosh, it was kind of like in Midsommar
Ooh.
when you see the old man who doesn't know how to cliff jump and then they
Yeah.
smash his face in, and then you just kind of have to stand there
If
looking
yeah,
at him
yeah.
being
If
dead.
Thomason had a hammer, it would have been over quicker.
Well, next time, maybe she'll come prepared. And then the whole thing with the mom, that was also,
Yep.
that was like, I don't think I jumped, but it definitely gave me like the, oh
Yeah.
shit, I
It
can't believe
like some
this is
tension,
happening.
edge of your
Yeah,
seat. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that was pretty
Mhm.
high. You mentioned high life earlier in the sense that they were alone and in some ways hopeless. So that
Yeah.
those
And always hopeless.
always hopeless. Those feelings, was that a reference to something?
No,
Oh,
no, you
okay.
said in some ways hopeless, but like
Oh, and
you rated that movie high because
always.
it was in all ways they were,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that to me is all that psychological thinking about like just being alone and hopeless and there's no way to get out of your situation. That's pretty scary. I think that's pretty scary.
Right, right, right.
So given all of that, also the imagery, similar, but it's like Midsommar, right? There's like
Yeah.
animals, they're in the
Yeah.
woods and all that kind of stuff.
True.
So I'm gonna give
But also 3/4 of the way through you were bored.
I
So
was. That is true. It wasn't like I'm gonna give it like a medium 7.
a medium 7.
Yeah.
A medium. What's a medium 7?
Well, it's like it's not a high 7, it's not a low 7, it's just a medium 7.
Okay. So just again, this is your meter. You do with it what you want. So you're rating it about even with Candyman,
Okay, all right, let's think back to Candyman.
which I think is probably true. There were some tense moments in Candyman. There was some edge of your seat. I would probably, if it were me, I would put The Witch lower on the scale, probably. But I could see why you're like, okay, you know, there's some. I don't know. I don't really know what you're thinking. I feel like every season we should probably just start the scare meter over because eventually we're gonna
this is
10's gonna be too
this
hard.
is my scary meter. I get to decide. It doesn't have
You're
to
right.
make sense.
Medium 7. In here, I'm gonna make sure I annotate that the 7 is a medium, not a high 7, not a low
Where have we
7.
had any other sevens or just Candyman?
We're not gonna recap all of your scores
No.
this episode because we're
Okay.
gonna do that at the end of the season.
Okay. And that
But
when
no,
we recap it, maybe I'll make some fine tuning. Maybe I'll just
we've had 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s.
dang.
Candyman was 7. I just said we weren't going to recap it, but I'm here for you. Candyman was 7. High Life was 8. Midsommar was 9. Conjuring was 10.
But we've had others that were lower, like 6 and below, right?
Cabin in the Woods was 3. Megan was 1 or 2. The Shining was 4. Evil Dead Rise was a 6. Evil Dead Rise was a 6.
Okay, so we have had almost every number except for 5. And you know why I avoid the 5? It's because 5 is a fucking cop-out. It's not scary, nor is it not scary. It's just smack in the middle. That's where you put something when you have literally no idea.
Okay. So medium 7.
A medium 7. Medium 7.
Interesting. I want you to watch Evil Dead Rise in the Dark and tell me that witch is scarier than Evil Dead Rise.
But remember, Evil Dead Rise made me laugh. They said
I
some
know,
funny
but
shit.
it made you laugh because you were in a theater with people being loud.
Okay.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about this right now. But I will. But I rewatched it recently in the dark without the people around, and it was creepier. It had a creepier presence.
Yeah.
But we're not going to debate.
My
this.
favorite part is when you're like, "We're not going to talk about this, but I'm going to say my piece," and then we're not going to debate it.
And then we're done. Yeah, you're not allowed to rebuttal.
I'll stop.
Okay.
I'll stop.
Okay. Either way. We'll wrap all this up later. Don't worry, Friday Night Friends. We will have a postseason wrap up where we can debate and all the things and find out where I'm right and Sam's wrong. Okay, so no. We're not going to talk about this. Just kidding. Okay, so Sam, are you ready to discuss what movie we're going to watch on our season finale, episode 13 of Scary Movie Fright Night?
No, I'm not ready. I don't want it to end. I don't want it to be over. But
well, it's not going to be over. It's just going to be over until the next time.
Oh, okay. There will be a season 2.
There will definitely be a season 2. Unless we get boycotted, which if we've made it this far and not been boycotted, then canceled. Yeah, for all of our super controversial discussions about scary movies and Sam's previous breakups. And the AC men that come to your house.
Oh, the
Plural.
AC men. I thought you said something about semen.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nope. Not what I said.
I was in the Navy.
Okay.
And there were seamen in the
true.
Navy. So that is a valid miscommunication.
That's a valid true. Okay.
Also.
So here we go. So I'm going to blow your mind twice. Yeah, I just moved on. I'm going to blow your mind twice this episode. So next episode.
Yeah.
Is episode 13. Lucky number 13, which is why we went with 13, right? Because we thought it would be a good, fun way to wrap up the season. Next episode will be our season finale. So today we will be picking the final movie of the season. So Sam, this is going to be super fun.
Okay.
I want you to look in your frame, and behind you on your bookcase, on the top shelf in your frame, on the right side of your shelf, there's something that doesn't normally belong there, and it's a box wrapped in newspaper. I would like you to retrieve that on the very
Where? I don't
right
see
side.
it. Okay, wait.
2 shelves up from the salt lamp.
Oh my God, the giant book on the shelf that's this one that has never been there. And I literally have never seen this.
Yeah, grab
when
that.
When did you do this? Okay, wait, I have to take my headphones off to reach it maybe. Hang on, let me see if I can get it. Okay.
That's fine.
Hang on. Wait for it. Okay. All right. Oh my God. Wow.
Okay. Sam, in this box
Wait.
is your destiny.
Can I read what it says on the box? I don't know if this was intentional or not.
No, sure, you can read it. I picked a piece of newspaper out and then wrapped the box in it, but go ahead.
Wait, I have to take a picture of this because it's fucking amazing. No one's ever done anything this nice for me before. Well, I don't know if it's
I'm pretty sure I wrapped your birthday present in a newspaper.
You did, and that was also very well done. Hang on. It's going to be a shitty photo, sorry, but we can post it on Instagram so that everybody else can see what a remarkable job that you... And it says on the box, The true threat of artificial intelligence. It's like Megan.
It's like
Technology forged by private markets won't solve the world's problems, it will only amplify them.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I picked what I could out of the newspaper that I thought you would appreciate, and I knew you would appreciate that.
The New York Times Sunday Opinion.
Okay,
Okay,
are
okay,
you
all right.
done
Yes,
fangirling over my
yeah,
rapping
yeah,
job?
yeah. Let's
Okay,
do it. Okay.
okay.
You're
So,
like, that's not the
so Sam,
point.
in this box. First of all, the top of the box is the article about the AI. So when you unwrap the paper, that's the top of the
Okay.
box. In this box, you'll find 7 pieces of paper, each of which contains the name of a movie that you could have picked earlier this season that I would have liked you to watch,
Oh,
but that you did not select.
okay.
So today is your chance to redeem
I
yourself.
don't have to like saw off any limbs or anything, do I?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. That's season 2.
You will pick the papers out one by one and read the title. But only the last paper standing will be the movie that we watch on episode 13.
So we're gonna read all of them, but whatever, but
You're going to pick them out
each
one at a
one is
time.
process of elimination. Whatever's last is what we're gonna watch.
Yeah.
It's destiny. Okay. Can I open it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go
All
ahead.
right. I'm ripping
Open
into
the
this
box.
thing. You guys, I don't even know how Chris got this into my house. Did you call the papaya ghost and have him deposit this?
Yep, I did. I also happen to know someone that lives with you
Oh well, yeah, that's
that
true.
I work with that
Oh,
uh
little sneaky. Oh,
I know.
oh,
Honestly,
wait,
this
is that when
all
he
this is just for me.
earlier he was like trying to help me with the lighting in here? That might have been when he was like, "No, you need to fix your
He
lights."
was trying to figure out where to put it.
Yeah, little sneaky bastard. Okay, okay, it's open.
Okay. Tell me when you're
Did
ready.
you tape the
Okay, box is
scariest?
open.
Did you tape the scariest movie to the very bottom of the box so that I pick it last?
I did not. Just for like, so I tried to come up with a bunch of different ways we were going to do this. I originally was going to have variations of stuff in that box to include like the goriest movies of all time, but I'm not ending with the goriest movies of all time. We're wrapping up the season by going back and looking at movies that we could have watched.
Yes.
I didn't include all of them. I went through and carefully picked the ones that I'd seen that I wanted you to see, or that I didn't see that definitely would make a good season finale, in my opinion. And so, whenever you're ready, go ahead and pull the
Okay.
first one
This
out.
is so fun. And so many times when we were trying to choose a movie, this happened where it was like, oh gosh, I want to see this one and that one. And how are we going to pick? Okay. The first, how many are there in there?
There's 7 total.
7 total. Okay. The first one to get eliminated is Nope.
Nope. Oh, that's unfortunate.
We're saying no.
That was
to
your
no.
one chance at a Jordan Peele movie.
Oh man.
Guess we're gonna have to revisit that later.
Okay. Well,
Said nope to
nope to nope. You made that really funny joke about the movie. Yep.
Yeah.
Which was the antithesis of nope. Okay.
If for our listeners, if you haven't been following our Instagram, we have a funny reel that Sam posted on there about my joke about the yep.
I know. I still laugh
All right,
about
what's
that.
next?
Okay, next one to get eliminated is this is like the reverse Oscars. It's like who doesn't win?
Yep.
Saw. Oh, thank God.
Oh man, I really wanted you to watch that one. Yeah, that came out of the movie with like plot twists. I want you to see the plot twist.
Yeesh.
I don't want you to see the rest is fine, but I just want you to see the plot twist.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Every now and then, because when I do scary movie research, I'm like reading articles about stuff, and Saw pops up, and people make references to it all the time. Anyway.
Yeah, the first one was good. I mean, they made a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like there's another one coming out and later this year, I think. But the first one legitimately has you trying to figure out what's going on, and then the plot twist happens. You're like, what? Anyway, go ahead. What's next?
Third one to get eliminated is The Grudge.
Oh man, I'm actually kind of mad at the way I did this because now at least 2 movies have passed that I really wanted you to pick. So The Grudge, right? That was one of the first ones this season. I think that one was up against Candyman or something.
Yeah, I think
Either
it
way,
was the first.
That one came from
episode.
early this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I almost picked it because it's based on a Japanese movie, right?
Yeah.
Or it's a remake of a Japanese film, and you and I went to Japan together, so I was like, maybe.
That's true. And you'd seen The Ring, and it freaked you out back in the day, so that's why I was kind of excited for you to watch The Grudge.
That's it. That's exactly.
But
it.
we'll have to find another opportunity, next season.
All right. Well, we're getting close, so we have 3 more to eliminate, and then we find out the winner. So the next one to get eliminated is The Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay. Okay. Obviously, that was just last week,
Yes.
but a very good classic one, found footage and witches. And I think it would have been good for your education. So I left that one in.
I
But
almost picked
alas,
it.
it's not what we're
I
watching.
almost picked it too. I was like, Blair Witch, everybody talked about it back in like high school, middle
Yep.
school, but
Yeah.
I wanted it was the A24 thing. I was like, I just I've and I didn't know that there was going to be all those connections between The Witch
Right.
and Midsommar, but if the style was
Yeah.
anything similar, I wanted to take that direction. All right.
Yeah.
Here we go. Next one, let's shake it up a little bit.
Yep. Let's see. So you cross those out. Ooh, there's three good ones left. Not all these deliver. I forgot. I literally until this moment forgot I have the list up right in front of me. So
Okay, you feeling good about it? Okay.
you actually no, never mind. I was gonna say you almost had them pulled out in the order of the list that I have here, but go ahead.
Okay. Wouldn't that be wild? Okay, the next one to get eliminated is Sinister. I don't
Okay.
remember what that
Okay.
was. What was Sinister?
That one that movie was one of the ones listed with paranormal. It was on
Oh,
the same list as The Conjuring.
okay.
That one has for a particular reason I think would be interesting for you to watch. I'm not gonna bring it up because you'll probably watch it at some point later. So there's two left,
Mm.
and so what I'll say is between the two that are left, neither of them are new. Both are classics in their own
Okay, I have an idea. I have an idea.
i- in their own genre.
I'm going to, and you have to trust me, I'm going to turn my volume down all the way so that I can't hear you. And I'm going to not look, you cover your mouth or something. Tell the listeners what the
You
last two
can't see what I'm
movies are.
saying anyway.
No, I
Okay.
can't see your mouth. And then when you're ready for me to turn the volume back on, just wave at me. But you can say whatever you want to the listeners about the last two movies, and then we'll find out. Okay. I'm turning my volume all the
Okay.
way down now.
All right, Friday Night Friends. So the last two movies Sam gets to pick from is 28 Days Later and Paranormal Activity. Being a big zombie fan, I definitely wanted to put 28 Days Later back on the list because I thought that it was a pretty good classic zombie film that I enjoyed back in the day. And Paranormal Activity, I think people still revere as being a classic paranormal ghost story. And hopefully, if he picks that one, we'll give him the same scares as The Conjuring. But let's see which one he picks.
Okay. I'm coming back.
Cool. I didn't say anything.
Really?
No, I said a
Oh,
lot.
I was going to make the joke that I was listening the whole time, and then you got me first. Also, I forgot
I
to
win.
mute myself. Hopefully, I didn't fart or anything while that was going on.
You're obsessed with farts.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. Let's change the subject. Okay, so there's two left. I'm hoping
Yep.
that one is Hocus Pocus and the other one is the Barbie movie. But let's find out. Number. Wait, is there only? Oh, I thought there's only one left. Okay, here we go. Pulling it out.
Yep.
The.
This is the last one that gets eliminated from the
All right,
list.
you ready?
hmm
28 days later.
28 Days Later. So funny that the last movie on your list is the last one I have listed on my list from top to bottom.
Oh, and
I'm actually excited before you pull it out.
Okay, okay.
This one was also in the same idea. This was in the same listing as The Conjuring. So it's that same paranormal type scare. So
I think I
maybe
remember.
this one will give you some feels.
Oh, that was the 10.
But when you're
So
ready, pull it out.
everybody else knows what it is except for me. Okay, come on, here we go. Hocus pocus, hocus pocus, hocus pocus, hocus pocus. This thing is folded up really tiny. Okay,
Yeah,
hocus pocus,
because I have
hocus
tiny
pocus,
fingers, tiny
hocus
baby doll
pocus,
fingers.
hocus pocus. Paranormal Activity. That's
Yep.
what we're
So
watching.
for the final movie for the season is Paranormal Activity. Should I read the synopsis? to remind you what
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
about?
we got to
No,
do the
one last.
synopsis.
Okay. So Paranormal Activity for the win, which it's definitely a different feel than The Conjuring. It's definitely older than The Conjuring. My wife still to this day says it scares the crap out of her. So we'll see if we can get that scare out of Sam. But just to make him feel special, since he usually gets a choice, I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis out there for everyone out there so that you remember what it's about. Paranormal Activity centers around a young couple, Kate and Micah, who are haunted by a supernatural presence inside their home. Then, like most people would, they set up a camera to document what is haunting them. They don't leave their house. They don't try to go get the help of Ed and Lorraine Warren. They just get haunted and have a good old time with the camera. It's actually, for the end of the season, it's a really horrible synopsis. It doesn't actually tell you
We
anything.
could rewrite it. Why don't we make it better?
Yeah. Well, let's watch the movie first, and then we'll rewrite the
Oh,
synopsis.
that's a good point. I guess it's hard to
Yeah.
synopsisize it if we haven't seen it. Hmm,
Synopsisize.
yeah,
Mm.
I just admitted
Yeah,
that.
it's a
It's
good
kind of
word.
like in Sorkle,
In s-
Sorcicle. What's the word?
in what'll? In sourcel.
In
In
Sorcel.
sourcel. In sourcicle.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they just they get haunted and they just set up the camera so they can see, kind of like in The Conjuring, they set cameras up around.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they're just like, hey, let's set up a video camera and see what's haunting us.
I wonder if
That's
people get like Ring doorbell cams and well, what are the other ones? There's like Arlo and like whatever, like home security cameras that people put in their house. Those things must be blowing up with ghosts all the time. You think they have like
they
ghosts?
blowing up, blowing up.
Yeah, they must have like ghost sensors or something.
Well, they actually have Ring for ghosts.
And cue punchline.
No, like you can buy Ring cameras
I
that are supposed to
was
capture
like,
ghosts. They have
what's the
higher
pun here?
Ring. No, Ring for. Never mind.
Well, what is?
Bad joke.
Oh, it was a joke?
So, Paranormal
Okay.
Activity for the final episode of the season. I hope you're excited. To be honest, I don't know which movie I wish you would have picked, but I'm excited that we get to watch another movie, and it's one less movie from this season that I need to try to integrate into future themes.
Yeah, nice,
Um,
nice.
I think that even if it's not super scary, it'll definitely it's one that you need to see. And there's a whole series of Paranormal Activity movies that honestly I haven't watched. So depending on how you feel about this, we can kind of sludge our way into some of the sequels moving forward.
Hell yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
So we'll do
Yep.
episode 13 where we'll do Paranormal Activity. And then, Chris, I think we can tell our listeners after that, we're planning to do like a season wrap just to review everything that we've watched thus far and talk about what this journey has been like. So we can look forward to
Yeah.
a 14th episode that comes after the season finale.
Yep. Yep. That'll be coming shortly thereafter. It'll be a fun time. Maybe we'll give out some awards, to some of our favorites or least favorites.
Oh.
Maybe we'll wear tuxedos. I don't know. Maybe not. Uh,
Oh.
we'll have to see what the future holds. But with that being said, to all of our Friday Night friends out there, as the season comes to a close, consider leaving us a 5-star rating on Apple and, on Spotify or both, so we can easily reach more listeners. If you have things you liked, disliked, would like to see in upcoming episodes or bonus episodes or next season, leave us that 5-star review and tell us what we should watch next season. Tell us what other movies maybe we missed, but did we miss themes? Let us know. But in the meantime, join us next week when we watch Paranormal Activity. So Sam, if you were doing Normal Activity
Yeah,
and I was doing Normal Activity and we were doing the same Normal Activity,
together.
then would it be a paranormal activity?
Okay. Yes, I suppose it
That
would.
that laugh literally means stop.
uh,